Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. We continue our work for today. Our third briefing is dedicated to art looting during the war. Copyright infringement when artists' work is stolen to earn money. We have invited three speakers for this briefing. Beata Kurkul, Alisa Zhabinets, artists. They are online with us. We will give the floor to them. And we also have Inga Kordynovska, lawyer and managing partner of ID Partners law firm, who will just provide comments to the cases of our artists. Beata, the floor is yours. Can you share your experience of copyright infringement? I've been drawing the military since 2014, 2015. And I have seen my works used for paintings by numbers, for embroidery. I also find them on book covers. But the most interesting case was when one of my artwork was used as a magazine cover in the Russian Federation. But initially there were several cases, and I managed to settle everyone through a constructive dialogue. And in one case, my works were used on the phone cases. So I just contacted that guys and saying that they should first ask my permission. The response was quite positive. A young guy told me that he didn't know, but he wanted to rectify the situation. And I allowed him to use some of my work because his father was a volunteer fighting in 2014, 2015 in the west of Ukraine. And now this guy has also joined the armed forces of Ukraine, and he just put on a break his business. And actually, after that case, together with him, we all the time try to find the authors of other work he found. After the full-scale invasion, I saw that my work was used for jigsaw puzzles, for embroidery, for paintings by numbers, and once I saw it on Instagram, a guy there was selling my work as postcards, and I contacted him, but he just banned me. Thank you. Alisa, the floor is yours. Please share your experience, and then we will ask Inga to comment upon these cases. And a shop, Johnsovik, just uploaded in their account their clothes with my paintings, my drawings, and actually I managed to settle that case because I addressed to my subscribers, to ordinary people who just helped me to start the discussion of that case. And I would like to thank everyone for helping me in that case. But there were different other cases. Once my work has been stolen, and they tried to sell it as NFT tokens. And there were other cases when I just saw other products with my work. So there were different cases. with my work stolen, but only one was successful in terms of the settlement. And as for the case with that shop that you mentioned first, and there was kind of the information pressure on that shop initiated by ordinary people. No, no, actually, they didn't offer me any royalties because I came to the shop, and but there was just an argument with them, and then I posted a video, and people started just leaving comments in that shop. Saying that the shop could not do this thing. But after that information campaign, that shop contacted me. They were offended somehow, but they just told me that they would delete my work from their account. But they did not offer any royalties. Thank you. Thank you for sharing details about your cases. Inga, can you advise what artists can do in such situations? Unfortunately, this is quite common for the Ukrainian market. And I call our market as a wild when it comes to copyright, because people still believe that then can I upload any image or video from the web, and they don't understand that there is a copyright, that they can't use just any pictures, drawings, or paintings on their products. And actually, they also quite often feel offended when you address them, trying to explain the situation. And this is the consequence of post-Soviet era, because back then there was no understanding of the existence of the copyright, and so we don't have the proper culture. We have been independent for 30 years, but only recently, under the pressure of the Western countries, we've starting just learning the culture. But anyway, there are two issues. The first, that some people don't understand the nature of the copyright. And secondly, artists, they quite rarely address for the protection, because they are creative people, they feel offended, but they don't understand that they should protect their rights, and sometimes even take some preventive measures. Because if there is no punishment for illegally using someone's work, we'll just only continue creating the illusion that they can do such things. That's why we should take actions in the form of information campaign, awareness raising, because if there is no note that some product is free of charge, where then the artworks can be used, because there are special platforms, web platforms, where the images can be downloaded for free. But again, we should speak about different cases. When you download something for your personal use, just like a background for your smartphone, this is one case. But if you download something for free and you want to sell it, then the artist, the author of the work, is entitled to get royalty. And quite often businesses, they just react and saying that they don't understand what is the problem, because this is just an image on the web. And secondly, we need to understand what we should do in such situations. And the copyrights should not be registered under the law, because the authors became like the authors, the owners of the work, of the copyright, as soon as they create something. And when some shops, some other people, they just use your work, and they don't understand when you say them that you are the author, the artist, because you need to prove it. And actually, on the one hand, we have a legislation that does not require you to register your copyright. But on the other hand, we have the copyright registration procedure, and we always advise to undergo the procedure. And because if you have your style or some significant artwork, we advise to register it because, of course, it is quite money and time consuming to register every work. But you can just register your style or an important piece of art in your collection. Because if you register some artwork, then it is easier for you later to prove that other artworks are also yours. And is it easier then to prove it in a court? Yes, because we can see a registered style. Those well-known artists, they have their own style. And when there is some work that has been registered as a copyright, it is easier to prove this. But the court is quite expensive, but we still have Instagram. If you have some evidence proving that these are your pieces of art, you can just submit a claim in Instagram, and it's quite effective. Because when you have a lot of artworks, it is very difficult to just address to court anytime there is an infringement. And as for the first case, we have different types of operators because that's why it is very difficult to bring them to responsibility in court. But when it comes to Instagram, Instagram is always ready to protect your copyright because Instagram was established in those countries that always support artists. And so if you have a kind of a database that proves that you are the owner, that you are the artist, it will be easier for you to address Instagram. Because when you publish your work there, there is always a date of publication, and you can prove that, for example, you just posted your work in 2021, and someone started using it in 2022. And of course, it is great if you registered at least significant works of yours. And when you address Instagram, you will be able to prove that this is your work. But you can also word properly your address. So you should just write that when you submit a complaint on Instagram that you are an author, that this is your work, and that you do not allow to use it to a specific shop or some other entity. Many artists, actually, and many shops now, they just promote their products on social media. That's why it is even worse for them when they are banned, for example, on Instagram, or when then somewhere just brings them to court. And also, actually, they are not ready to pay for court proceedings because of blackouts, air alerts. It will take time. And businesses, that's why they just believe that no artists will address court because it will cost a lot of money. And such unscrupulous businesses, they use it. But when it comes to Instagram, Facebook, when you file a complaint to them, then they deal with this quite effectively. Then the awareness raising, when you have your audience, when you have your followers who are ready to support you, who are ready to disseminate the information about some unscrupulous brand, it is very helpful. But, for example, when we come to some big commercial networks, you can just inform about this your followers, and this will be a quite significant case. Because when we speak about some big companies, big businesses, and it is easier to get money from them because their image is very important. And it's easier to prove your ownership in such cases. When it comes to small businesses, some local businesses, sometimes it's more difficult. But when it comes to such big shops as Epicenter or some other chains, then it's easier sometimes to protect your right there. Do our artists want to add something, or perhaps do you have some additional questions, Alisa, Beata? I will start if you're all. Inga, thank you very much for these detailed recommendations. And in my case, quite often I use Instagram, Facebook, or some other tools. And actually, there is an article on Wikipedia about me, and this means that I'm quite a well-known artist. That's why I can use it. I can also use the informational no, so to say. And of course, when we calculate how much time I need to bring someone to the court, and the time and money I need for this, I won't perhaps choose the court, because I'm the director of an art center, and I'm also an artist, a volunteer artist, because I just draw the military free of charge as a volunteer, and that's why I don't have time just to bring someone to the court. So for me, the informational campaign is more efficient. As for that big shop Epicenter, the producer of those products is not Epicenter, but some other small business. Epicenter is just like a platform for retail sales. And a slide with the jigsaw puzzles with my products has been shown, and I even managed to find the producer of that jigsaw puzzles, and we were able to settle the issue. For example, they started supporting one of the volunteer centers. Volunteers, so they started supporting volunteers. So you just contacted a manufacturer, and the manufacturer started providing aid to volunteers. So this is what you wanted from them. Yes, they just sent their products to one of the volunteer centers dealing with the IDA base from Mariupol. So for me, that was a good decision. You see, our society believes that if someone violates your rights, the only way to protect your rights is the court. No, the court is your last resort, and your case is quite illustrative. Because you, first of all, you were not silent. You tried to protect your right. And the manufacturer offered you the solution that was, you were quite okay with it. And it is very important to settle the dispute before the court. And if you manage to settle this, it means that we have a highly developed legal culture, because the second party accepted that they violated your rights and they were ready to pay for this, but the solution they offered was quite suitable for you. That's why never be afraid of starting the negotiation process, saying that you are the author of some work and that your rights are violated. But anytime, in any case, you need to start such negotiations. You can involve mediators, you can involve lawyers, and lawyers can actually support you with this, and thus you will be able to achieve positive results. But you've mentioned Epicenter. Why I say that when you speak about large stakeholders, it's easier to deal with them, because you can address them that they sell the goods, that they sell products which were not allowed by the author, and they will just remove that products from their shelves. And the expenses, the costs for a small business being there will be quite a significant sanction for that small business. This is how can you fight them. So, or you can address the small business saying that you will address to the large company, and the large company will remove their products from their shelves, and they can just decide if they are ready to pay you or if they are ready for their products to be removed from a big shop. Because there is not only the court, there are other means and tools just to settle the issue. Just don't be silent. Do our journalists have questions? Michael, Anatoly? No, I have a question. When we started discussing copyright, I just recalled one initiative. There was the initiative in the Russian Federation around 15 years ago when they created the Copyright Protection Association. Mikhalkov, the Russian director, was actually the head of that organization, and they even tried to fight the USB sticks that were brought to the country because the sticks could be used for illegal downloading or uploading art pieces. But anyway, what can we do in our case? Do we need to have the precedents to improve the situation? What is our way forward? So, and actually, I don't like when people start to address court at once. The court is the remedy to solve some really conflict situations when there is no other remedies that could be used. But we don't have the proper communication culture. People are not ready to negotiate to protect their rights. And I can't support this. There are different organizations, professional associations, or NGOs. And of course, we need such associations because it's easier to protect your rights when you have a group of artists. Because when there is one artist, he or she cannot allow him or herself to protect their rights. But we can have different tools, like in shipping, like the sailors, they have a kind of the insurance clubs. So they are ready to donate some small sums, some small amounts of money, but as soon as they face the loss of their vessel or the loss of the products, they just address the club asking for help, and the club was able to cover all the expenses. We can use the same scheme for artists. So, for example, when artists, they unite in some associations, they make some small payments for this association, but then if they have any problems, the association will hire lawyers, mediators will lead the negotiation process, and this will be easier for artists just to protect their rights. So when they have such organizations, and if there is a big, large organization, associations, it's easier for such association to fight for the rights of artists. And such associations can also be involved in awareness-raising campaigns, because a lot of companies, a lot of businesses in Ukraine, they not always do this on purpose, namely infringing rights. They just don't understand that a picture, a drawing has a copyright, that it is owned by someone. And actually, this is due to our culture, and such associations can just be responsible for awareness-raising campaigns. My name is Anatoly Kosin. I'm representing Media Center Ukraine. I have a question. You've mentioned that there is no requirement under Ukrainian legislation to register your work or your style, like our artists have. And how much time does it take to register your artistic style? And from the 1st of January, the situation has been changed, and the rates are different. I'm not responsible for this, and I have the assistant to do this. Usually it takes around several months, and it can cost hundreds hryvnias, up to 1,000 or 2,000 hryvnias for one artwork. As for the style, you cannot register, so to say, the style, but you can register different artworks. And then there is special experts that can assess different artworks of yours, which are registered, proving that this is your style. But this can work for those artists who have their own distinctive style. As for registration of your copyright, for someone it is a surprise when they learn that they can register their copyright. But the procedure is there at the state level. But your task is to prove that you were the first to create something. When you upload this on social media, on your website, and if there is the time of registration published, it will be easier for you to prove that you are the owner. And for example, you can use this during campaigns on social media, just showing the date when you uploaded something. And this is quite effective. That's why we recommend for artists to develop their social media, to develop their websites, and you can use some photos from the exhibition when your work was first represented. This can be some articles or publications on social media. So everything that can prove when you showed your work to the world for the first time. So there is not only one tool of registration your copyright, but you need to have some evidence of the first release of your work. Then when later you will have the issue when you have to prove that this is your piece of art, you can just show when you published it. And this is quite effective as well. Thank you. Thank you very much for this discussion, and thank you for providing advice to our artists online. And we hope the situation will improve in the future in Ukraine. Thank you. That was and I was actually glad to have you online with us, Beata and Alisa. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. Thank you for this briefing, and thank you for your advice. And can I just ask a question while we're online? Yes, sure. What should we do when I find some shop that sells my drawing without any authorization, but they don't have accounts on social media? They can just have their website. Perhaps you can give us a piece of advice for such cases. Yes, the situation with the websites is more difficult, but just remember about our tax service. You can just address the tax service for them to make a kind of inspection there. And this is also quite effective because people keep forgetting about the taxation service, because you can always file complaints there. And the experience shows that quite often some small websites, small businesses, unscrupulous ones who illegally use your work, are not even registered, so they are illegal from every perspective. So you address the taxation service for them to audit that company, and they can find a lot of infringements there, not only the copyright infringement, but the absence of registration or some other cases. And you can use this as the pressure on that company. So this is kind of a blackmail, but this is an ethical kind of blackmail. So you use the existing inspection tools to protect yourself. You can also just file a complaint against a domain. But of course, yes, the situation is more difficult with the website, and I recommend to address the inspection bodies of Ukraine. Thank you. And I hope that the complaint filed to the taxation service of Ukraine will be the last remedy, because it could be really problematic for small businesses. Thank you very much. If our journalists are interested in the topic, we will gladly give you the contacts of our artists and organize the discussions with our expert on copyright today. So please don't hesitate to address our media center to get contacts of our participants. Stay tuned the next week. We will have some interesting events.